blessed to be here, as I offer you freedom to do as you wish once we take this realm. You are free from the void because we finally broke through the Elder's barrier, which further splintered the cracks. But the void and this realm are still separate. Our plan is simple. Destroy our enemies, sit on the throne, and allow the void to swallow this realm. And then we are all free to spread chaos and destruction everywhere, and then rebuild the realms to our liking and do it all over again. But we have work to do. We need an army to take the other planets. This one is ours because the elders abandoned it. Next will be the ocean planet. And then we will go to the outpost planet and take the Temple of the Eye. Together, the Master Realm can become the Void Realm, and nothing will stop us.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball! War Within! And just as the stage is set for the key players in our theme story, so are our storylines headed into the first week of divisional play. We are down to just one undefeated team and one winless team, with one game separating 10 of us. This is a key week for all teams, especially if you're winless, as divisional record is the second tiebreaker within our divisions. Starting strong in divisional play takes some pressure off, especially with bye weeks looming. But how did we even get here? Let's start by looking at last week's as my squad, the Stars Are Right, took on Treat 'em and Yeet 'em at the Agna River Crossing. This one came down to Monday night, but really it ended up closer than it felt as Treat 'em and Yeet 'em followed up last week's fourth best weekly score performance with a 116.98 to 100.14 win. The true difference was at running back, as the Stars Are Right did not have enough total team touchdowns to counteract Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery combining for 5 touchdowns and 382 yards. Jared Goff also threw a touchdown pass to the Sun God, which ended up being exactly when Treat 'em and Yeet 'em took over the match, really. Prior to that, Mark Andrews came alive for his first score of the season to give the Stars Are Right some hope. Andrews added a second touchdown in garbage time to push the overall score past 100. But it was never going to be enough against this hot Treat 'em and Yeet 'em squad. Once again, both players to watch struggled, which hurt the Stars Are Right more than Treat 'em and Yeet 'em. Wan'Dale Robinson had just 26 yards due to a terrible performance by Russell Wilson. T. Higgins had just 15 yards because of an awful performance by the Bungles as a team. Both defenses stepped up. The Chiefs, which were a big reason why Wilson was so bad, had 2 sacks and 2 picks. The Steelers had 5 sacks and 5 forced turnovers for the Stars Are Right. Both teams are now 2-1 overall, and both are in first place in their respective divisions based on points tiebreaker. Our other matchups had some interesting finishes as well, with 2 other ones coming down to Monday nights. The Stellar Bitches held on for a huge 103.54 to 99.16 win over Thorlacher after Derrick Henry was held to 57 yards and a touchdown. Henry lost a fumble late and was stuffed on the 1-yard line 3 times. The Stellar Bitches had a nice game by Cam Scatabo with 121 yards and a score. Roma Dunze found the end zone again, and Dalton Kincaid also scored. Travis Etienne and Michael Pittman added touchdowns for Thorlacher. A banged-up The Overcomers squad held on loosely as if she was 38 special in another low-scoring match, 76.22 to 72.18. Josh Allen had 3 touchdowns, and the Packers' defense added 2 sacks and a pick. The Clash at Demon Head had over 100 yards by James Cook, who added a touchdown, and Christian McCaffrey. The Lions' defense almost did enough for a comeback on Monday with 7 sacks and a fumble recovery. The Clash at Demon Head actually trailed by less than a point late in the 4th quarter before a garbage time touchdown clinched it for the Overcomers. The Fighting Mooses are still searching for their first career league win after running into another huge weekly score with Remember the Titans winning 133.92 to 95.42. Caleb Williams had 4 touchdowns and Jamar Gibbs added 2 more. The Seahawks defense scored again as they're on fire, and Jackson Smith and Jigba also reached the end zone. George Pickens and Tony Pollard even joined the touchdown party. The Fighting Mooses had a 50-plus yard score by Nico Collins and 2 scores by Kenneth Walker. Jordan Mason also had a nice game, 116 yards and 2 scores. But in the end, Remember the Titans was just too powerful to stop. Low-key Lebowski Thor is finally in the win column in 2025, beating defending champion Pounders 86.16 to 60.14. Quinshon Judkins, Keenan Allen, and Trey McBride found the end zone, but it was the 2 touchdowns by Aaron Rodgers and the touchdown by the Bucs D that really helped here. Matthew Stafford did have 2 scores by Pounders, but an injury to CeeDee Lamb certainly hurt. Golden Ticket is the last undefeated team standing as they rode their defense to a 133.02 to 83.92 win over Green Acres. Lamar Jackson had 3 touchdowns, but the story here is the Vikings D crushing the Bungles, finishing with 4 sacks, 2 picks, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 touchdowns. Marion Hampton, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill also scored. Kyron Williams had over 100 yards and a TD to lead Green Acres. Garrett Wilson and Kareem Hunt also reached the end zone, but Baker Mayfield had just 1 touchdown, which certainly hurts. We only have 1 team in first place without the need of a tiebreaker, that being Golden Ticket, which we'll get to in a second, but we have a lot to look for as we move ahead to divisional play now. In the Dream Division, my team, the Stars Are Right, still remain in first place with 32 more points than the Overcomers. Green Acres is just a game behind, and the Fighting Mooses are actually second in points in the division despite being 0-3. The Shadow Division is separated by just 1 game with 2 2-1 and 2 1-2 teams. Treatum and Yeetum has 74 more points than second place Thorlacher because of that 4th best weekly score in week 2. The Clash at Demon Head has 52 points more than defending champion Pounders. Finally, in the Power Division, Golden Ticket is a game up on Remember the Titans, but also 31 points ahead of them. That's important. The Stellar Bitches have 47 more points than Low-Key Lebowski Thor at the bottom of the division. In our first divisional, should be interesting, with the Overcomers taking on the Fighting Mooses in Fallaciter's Maze. Before we learn more about the matchup, let us continue our journey as we enter this maze.
Is everyone okay?
Minus the creatures we nearly ran into, we are surviving.
Those scavengers aren't going to stop, will they?
No, they will hunt us until their duty is complete. But we are safe for now. They will not follow us into this section, though they may be waiting for us on the other end.
What is it about this section?
Fallaciter's Maze. Fallaciter was an overseer, creating this section as a way to confuse enemies. One wrong turn and you will be lost forever. The maze is designed to change and deceive. Once you are caught in the trap, there's no escape.
Well, it's a good thing we have you then.
Let's hope that I can gain your complete trust after this section. This is my first time through this maze.
First time? So you don't know the way?
No, but I am an overseer, so I should be able to decipher the logic. I certainly don't want us to catch up with any lost elders or others who are still within the trap.
Still? You mean if we got lost, we might also come face to face with our enemies?
Worse, no one knows what survival tactics have been employed. There will be dangers other than the deception. While the others are lost and will never find their way out, we might still run into them.
But then couldn't they just follow us out?
The magic wouldn't allow it. We would simply vanish to them.
But they can keep us in here and drive us into the trap?
Yes, so stay close and don't believe anything you see and hear. We must question everything.
So, who was this Fallaciter?
He was a member of our past council well before the war. He didn't trust the elders, so he created this maze in secret to capture enemies. While we are grateful now, other overseers believed he was going to break our previous peace, so they exiled him from the Master Realm. No one knows what happened to Fallaciter.
And when the elders attacked?
Knowing the legend of the maze, we lured others in with false information. The elders believed it was a camp.
And can this Fallaciter still be alive?
Perhaps, though this was before even I was born. I'm not sure we would want to see him, for he may have vengeance on his mind. Instead of thinking of that, let's think about another big game coming up. Will the Overcomers turn the #1 pick in the draft into a title? No one's ever done that. Can the Fighting Mooses bounce back from a slow start, make a move as one of the new conjured up rookies?
I do feel like the season is heating up. It's nice to know we can still distract ourselves with that if we end up trapped for eternity.
Speak for yourself. I would rather be free to play.
Still, we know the importance of the Green Bowl. I wonder if that power will guide us here too.
I can only hope, Dream Priest. We could also be doing the Elder's bidding if we get lost in here.
That sounded like a scavenger. I thought you said they wouldn't follow us.
Oh yes, I did forget to tell you. By others trapped with the Elders, I meant anyone or anything. Stay alert and keep your eyes open.
The computers are agreeing that it is time that the Fighting Mooses earn their first career league win after running into a gauntlet of high-scoring teams in the first 3 weeks. The Overcomers have not been scoring high and are decimated by injuries. So the Fighting Mooses actually come in here with a 69.2% chance to win. The quarterback battle is crucial for the Overcomers. Josh Allen should feast against New Orleans. But the problem could be that the Saints are so bad, it means more runs and less Allen passes. Jalen Hurts goes up against Tampa Bay on the other side, and Tampa Bay can rush the quarterback, so Hurts may have to use his legs, which probably isn't a bad thing. Another area that the Overcomers will be hoping for a huge advantage is with Saquon Barkley, also up against Tampa Bay. Kenneth Walker plays on Thursday night against Arizona, and we all know how crazy NFL divisional matchups could wreak havoc on scores. Nico Collins has a good matchup and might finally help Houston's offense get out of a slump. Malik Neighbors is a beast, but will Russell Wilson get him the ball? Lad McConkey and Juwan Jennings will most likely need touchdowns to compete for the Overcomers. You can say the same thing about Jalen Warren and Xavier Worthy for the Fighting Mooses and the Overcomers respectively, and both defenses might actually feast here, so defensive scores would obviously be big to get an advantage there. But there are 2 players that I'm really going to look at. For the Overcomers, I turn to running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, otherwise known as Bill. Bill looked poised to take over the backfield once Austin Eckler went down for the year. But instead, a running back by committee approach has happened. Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols have been taking away carries. Rodriguez actually led the backfield with 11 carries last week to Bill's 8. Bill did score a touchdown, though. We must say that. The Overcomers needs more than that, though. At the very least, they need a repeat of Week 1 when he had 82 yards and a touchdown on 10 carries. Bill faces the Falcons this week, which has been fairly stingy against running backs. Atlanta allowed 73 yards to Chuba Hubbard last week, but hasn't allowed any other back to rush for more than 40 yards, including Jordan Mason and Bucky Irving. The only rushing touchdown they allowed was in garbage time to Rico Dowdle last week. The other thing to keep in mind is that if Jaden Daniels is out again, Washington's offense obviously takes a hit. Marcus Mariota loves to vulture TDs at the goal line as well, and he's just isn't as electric as Daniels can be throwing the ball. If Bill can find his week 1 form, though, the Overcomers will gladly welcome it, and it could be enough to finally get them scoring more points as an overall squad, which would help in a big way here. But if Bill is limited, the Fighting Mooses just might have too many weapons to compete with this week. Speaking of the Fighting Mooses, I will look at another running back, Jordan Mason. Actually, just mentioned him, right? Mason is now the lead back in Minnesota because of Aaron Jones's injury. A player on IR on the Overcomers, ironically. Mason took advantage of his first full-time game with 16 carries for 116 yards and 2 scores against the Bungles last week, 7.3 yards per carry. Mason did very well last season when he had double-digit carries when he was with the 49ers, 672 yards in 7 games when carrying the ball at least 13 times. He had 3 rushing touchdowns during that stretch as well. And he gets to go up against the Steelers' defense in Dublin this week. The Steelers did better in week 3 against the run, but they were dominated in the first 2 weeks. Breece Hall had 107 yards in week 1. Kenneth Walker had 105 yards in week 2. They did keep Travion Henderson in check, just 28 yards and 11 carries last week. So which Steelers team shows up here will be huge, huge for Mason's chances. It must be said that Carson Wentz is going for the Vikings, the backup, and this game is in Ireland. Overseas games are typically harder to predict. There's jet lag, other factors. It tends to mess with these scoring lines. If Mason continues to shine with double-digit carries, it could be a big boost to get the Fighting Mooses in that winning column. If Mason has an off game, it could open the door for the Overcomers, if her Beast players show up, of course. A loss by the Fighting Mooses would put them in rough company, too, as no team has ever started 0-4 in this league and made the playoffs. Though Lebowski Thor did start 1-6 and made the playoffs for the first time in league history, so anything is possible. The Overcomers are, of course, trying to take first place back from my squad, as my squad has a tough matchup against Green Acres. Green Acres has a 54% chance to win against my squad right now. Moves can still be made, of course. Baker Mayfield versus Tua Tagovailoa, if Daniels remains out, will be key. Trey Benson and Jordan Addison are true question marks, though. Will Benson step up and fill the shoes of James Conner? Will Addison be rusty after being suspended the first 3 games? And of course, Addison can steal points from Justin Jefferson on the other side, so it's kind of big. Moving on to the Shadow Division, Thorlacher has a 59.1% chance to best defending champion Pounders. Patrick Mahomes versus Justin Fields should be a good one, with Fields getting an easier matchup. Derrick Henry has a tough one, while Josh Jacobs has a chance to feast against the Cowboys. ETN versus Javonte Williams in the flex is key for Thorlacher, with the Texans' defense getting a great matchup for Pounders. Treat 'em and Yeet 'em look for their 3rd straight win and come in with a 58.6% chance at a victory against the Clash at Demon Head. The Lions play the #1 scoring defense, though, Cleveland. So can Jared Goff, David Montgomery, and the Sun God give her a lot of points again? Christian McCaffrey and James Cook will be huge for the Clash at Demon Head, with Jonathan Taylor playing like the best back right now. And the Lions' defense is an advantage for the Clash at Demon Head. The Stellar Bitches come in with a 68.6% chance to win against Loki Lebowski Thor in the Power Division. Bijan Robinson and Elvin Kamara could be big here, as Lebowski Thor will hope for Chase Brown and Judkins to keep up. Roma Dunze and A.J. Brown will look to continue where they left off last week, meaning that Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston will both probably need to score. And then there is the Bills' defense against the Saints, which could end up being the difference. Lastly, in what might be the best matchup of the week, undefeated Golden Ticket takes on Remember the Titans in a battle for first place in that Power Division. Golden Ticket holds a slim 54.5% chance to win at the moment. Lamar Jackson has been MVP-like, but gets a tough matchup against the Chiefs. Caleb Williams has played well lately and gets a good spot against Vegas, so that will be key there. Bucky Irving and Marion Hampton versus Jamar Gibbs and Tony Pollard is probably one of the bigger keys here, though. Both need their running backs to step up. Also, will Jamar Chase come to life with a backup quarterback? And will J.K. Dobbins continue to shine for Denver? I also have to ask which defense actually is going to show up and lead this team here, lead both of these teams, because both the Vikings and Seahawks had middle-of-the-road matchups and both put up huge numbers last week. This should be a very fun week with divisional standings getting turned on their head depending on these results. It is very possible we have 3 new first-place teams when it's all said and done. We can also get a few clear early championship contenders. That's how big this week is. That's the show! Hope you enjoyed it. We return to out-of-divisional play again next week as our crazy schedule continues, so it'll be interesting to see how the matchups play out and what's set up for next week. Plus, our theme story continues to heat up as the war in the Master Realm is clearly ready to explode soon. Until next time, salut, and before you go, here's the updated power rankings.